So we know that about 2 years before Percy arrived at Camp Half-Blood, Luke went on a quest to retrieve the golden apples of the Hesperides, and this quest is remembered as an absolute disaster. We also know, however, that it's customary for a demigod to choose two companions to accompany them on their quest, and this is a pattern that we see in just about every quest that's given. Percy obviously chooses Grover and Annabeth. Talia and Zoe agree to take a combination of hunters and campers to save Artemis. Annabeth skirts the rules by adding an extra companion, and the Lost Hero trio bonded in this very same way. Even in the Heroes of Olympus, the Seven mention that since 3 is the sacred number for a quest party, that anytime they leave the Argo 2, they should go in groups of 3 whenever possible. The only major outlier we see is in Clarisse in the Sea of Monsters, who boards the CSS Birmingham and sails with a ship of Confederate soldiers who owe their lives to Ares. But she still had a major support system in the form of a massive warship and a dedicated crew of aides. Percy even asks her who she brought with her, and she said that she let the rest of the Ares cabin stay home to protect the camp, so she willingly denied the offer to bring companions with her, which reinforces the idea that this is not normal. With Luke, however, we have no idea who he chose to be his quest companions, and that is what we're going to be diving into today. First, let's begin with some of the usual suspects. We know that he didn't choose Annabeth since she says she's never been on a quest and has basically lived at camp for the last 5 years, outside of a few short field trips and one stretch of time where she tried to return home, only to come right back to camp when she discovered that her home life had not improved. And it makes perfect sense why Luke didn't choose her. She would have only been 9 or 10 at this point, and after watching Talia give her life to save Annabeth to get safely to camp, there's no way that Luke would let her come with him, even though she probably fought and tried everything in her power to go. So let's look at some more senior campers. And in the Sea of Monsters, we learned that Annabeth had been there more summers than anyone, and in second place was Clarisse herself, who we just mentioned. Seniority is a major factor here because we know that this was still 2 whole years before Percy got to camp, so most of the oldest campers we know still would have only been there for a few years, since Annabeth's 5 summers was a major accomplishment. We know that Luke and Clarisse respected each other, and she's always been a fighter, but she's weighed down by her sense of pride and honor to her heritage as a daughter of Ares. If she had gone on this quest and it failed, then she would have seen it as a major wound to her ego, and she would have done everything possible to reassert herself as a respectable daughter of the war god. We know that when Luke got back, the camp treated him with a sense of pity, and if they dared to treat Clarisse the same way, then it would have royally pissed her off. Which might be why she takes the war games so seriously, and why she's a bully to younger campers in order to establish immediate dominance through fear rather than genuine respect. If a failed quest of this magnitude had been on her shoulders for all these years, then she probably never would have lived it down, which explains why she was so nervous when taking on the quest for the Golden Fleece, because for her, this may not have been a chance to prove her worth, but it might have also been her shot at redemption. This is her chance to get a quest right, since her last outing was such a monumental failure, and it also could explain why she didn't want to take any companions with her, since the last time she was on a quest, Luke may have been disfigured and nearly killed by Layden. So it's possible that she didn't want to put anyone else in any more danger than she absolutely had to. So if she had a complete warship of Confederate soldiers, then that would give her the perfect cover. If Clarisse went on the quest with Luke, then it would drastically recontextualize her character throughout the main series, since she's no longer just a bully, but she's actively seeking atonement for her failure. She would feel the need to prove that she's strong because she doesn't have the track record to do that for her. Characteristically speaking, all of these traits seem like they can be tied back to Clarisse's alleged past with Luke, but there's still one glaring flaw that no one ever brings up. Remember, this quest was so catastrophic that it ended up essentially banning any more quests from taking place until Percy arrived, since no one had been allowed to go on a quest in almost 2 years. If something this serious happened between Clarisse and Luke, then surely someone would have mentioned it at some point in the main series, even if it wasn't Clarisse or Luke. Annabeth, Grover, Chiron, or Mr. D, or any of the senior campers would have known what happened, and we don't find it likely that Percy could have gone 4 years without ever learning this piece of the past. When Luke betrayed camp and sided with the Titans, it hit Annabeth the hardest because of their shared past together, but Clarisse never shows any sort of personal grief in regards to Luke, which I don't think is normal if she did something this important with him and was there when he got scarred. We still think that it's possible that Clarisse was one of the companions, given what we know from her character, but that is a flaw that has to be addressed, even if there doesn't seem to be an easy explanation right now. There is, however, one more point to bring up, and that's the fact that each quest is allowed 2 companions, not just 1. So even if Clarisse did go with him, it would mean that someone else went too, and this is where we think this theory takes a dark turn. This quest was seen as a monumental failure, which we've established, but was the failure really Luke's inability to retrieve the golden apple for Hermes? In The Lightning Thief, the stakes are that if the Master Bolt is not returned, then a war between the gods breaks out and annihilates civilization in the Crossfire. In the Sea of Monsters, if the Golden Fleece is not retrieved, then Talia's tree dies and camp is left unprotected as the Titans are stirring, meaning that the entire future of camp could be in jeopardy, and the list continues. The Titan's Curse quest could result in someone sacrificing the Ophiutorus and gaining the power to overthrow Olympus. And in the Battle of the Labyrinth, failure to navigate the labyrinth would mean that camp once again gets overrun by an army of monsters who are able to infiltrate from the inside. The reason why this is important is because every quest we've seen so far has had much higher stakes than simply appeasing a god. So we don't think that the failure here was that Hermes was disappointed. If there was a second companion, is it possible that this unnamed companion died along the way? Take a moment to think about what this would mean for Luke's past, whether or not Clarisse was the third companion. If Luke led a quest at the behest of his father and it resulted in one of his friends getting killed over a pointless objective, then it's no wonder he started to resent Hermes and the gods even more than he already did. If he had returned the apples to Hermes, then he would have been hailed as a hero without any lasting consequences. There is no real point to Luke's quest other than to silence his objections by appeasing him. If Hermes could make him feel like a hero, then he might stop being as critical. But this plan backfired, and now a friend that Luke had trusted enough to bring on the quest was dead. Now, if this is the case, then Luke's character becomes much deeper than he already is, and he's already a very well-written character. This has always been a fight for the future of demigods on both sides, as both Percy and Luke want a future that's safe and secure for their kind. They just have very different means of achieving the same goal. And for Luke, there might be a sense of honor that comes with that. We can even go so far to speculate that Clarisse may not have been the third quest member, and Luke potentially would have lost 2 people, which would also explain why Clarisse didn't want companions, since this story would have been known across camp. There are a lot of different ways that this could have happened, whether Clarisse was involved or not, but the question regarding who Luke's companions might have been is fascinating. And if one or both of them had died, then it would drastically recontextualize not just how camp viewed him when he got back, but also what he carried with him as a herald of the Titans. As for who this mystery camper may have been, we have no idea, since we would never have the chance to meet him or her, as this was before Percy's time. But it's interesting nonetheless. That's our take on who Luke's companions for the Layton quest might have been, but be sure to let us know what you think and if you catch something that we missed. As always, my friends, we love this series, we've talked about this series, and we would love to have you join in the conversation down below. Take care, demigods, and we'll see you in the next one.